Well, that about sums up how we all felt about this show. Hello and welcome to HateWatchers. Today we're doing the third installment of our How They Tried to Trick Us video series, as The Witcher Blood Origin makes the dreaded list of shows and movies that tried to trick fans into viewing it. Now for everyone new to the channel, the How They Tried to Trick Us series is not your average review video. In this series, we set out to pinpoint exactly how a show or movie tried to trick people into watching it, liking it, or talking about it. And there is a wide range of different tricks that shows or movies employ toward these ends. For example, in previous How They Tried to Trick Us videos, we covered how the Rings of Power weaponized nostalgia to ensure that they'd hook a massive audience, and how Disney baited us with a fan-favorite character in the form of Boba Fett before completely butchering him and Disneyfying him for his own show. Each of these shows featured a handful of different tricks they tried to pull to get us watching the show, talking about it, or thinking the show was better than it actually was. Today we're discussing yet another TV show that's made this dishonorable list. And apparently, we were all very naughty this year, as Santa didn't think just leaving us a lump of coal in our stockings was punishment enough. Nope. This Christmas under the tree, Santa left us a steaming pile of crap by the name of The Witcher Blood Origin. And again, this video isn't here just to rip on all the same problems with Blood Origin that every other review video has repeated ad nauseum. So while we may briefly mention some of the obvious problems with this show during the course of our investigation, our goal is to focus on the underhanded tricks the creators of the show tried to pull on viewers, so those other problems aren't going to be the focus for this video. And those problems include the crappy costumes, the insanely shitty CGI and effects, trying to develop 10 characters in 3.5 hours of screen time, the woke casting that prioritized intersectionality over talent, the incessant use of cursing instead of writing like actual people talk, the constant middle school level dick jokes, the attempt at incorporating 15 different themes in a 4-episode limited series, the mediocre action, the plot conveniences, the underwhelming monsters, and the lame annoying songs they wouldn't stop singing. And of course, despite our name, this is a positive channel, where we praise shows and movies that deserve it and aim to lend our voice to you, the fans, when creators and studios make a point of giving you the middle finger. So toward that end, we give every piece of media its fair shake, and we like to take a second during these videos to highlight a number of things that a show or movie did right. And in the case of Blood Origin, that was, yeah. We got nothing here.
Fuck.
Anyway, enough of the preamble. Let's get into the tricks we're here today to discuss. As a side note, today's video is going to be a shorter entry into the How They Tried to Trick Us series, simply because the show didn't employ a very wide range of tricks, and there's only 3.5 hours of this show to analyze. And with the hyperactive, ADD-riddled storytelling presented to us, there just isn't a whole lot to dive into. With that being said, we've come to the first trick The Witcher Blood Origin tried to pull on us, as the creators hijacked an established brand to tell their own story. Though most know The Witcher thanks to the wildly popular video game series, or the middling Netflix adaptation of the books, The Witcher was birthed in 1986 when author Andrzej Sapkowski wrote a short story by the same name. He continued the short stories and eventually released the first of 5 novels in the Witcher saga in 1994. And despite just writing one new prequel novel since 1999, millions have read his fantasy stories about Geralt and Ciri and Yennefer. Now, it's hard to argue that the books didn't get some major help from the vastly more popular Witcher video game series. And if you had any doubt about which one truly introduced people to this fantasy world, just keep in mind that the first of Sapkowski's books wasn't published in English until 2007, the same year the original Witcher game came out. CD Projekt Red, a Polish game company, brought the Witcher franchise, an original fantasy world based on Polish folktales written by Sapkowski, the Polish author, outside the borders of Poland and truly out into the world for the first time. As of 2020, the year The Witcher made its debut on Netflix, the game series had sold more than 50 million copies. And all of this is a really long way to say that The Witcher was an established brand long before Netflix sunk its corrupted claws into it. When someone takes over the mantle of an established fantasy world, there's some give and take between the new creators and the fans. For starters, the creator knows that whatever they introduce to this fantasy world will have some immediate buy-in from fans who will always give something new to the fantasy world a fair shot. But the benefits of this pre-established fanbase and their willingness to consume new entries into the lore comes with 2 major responsibilities that seemingly all creators and studios completely ignore these days. The first of those responsibilities is to leave everything the way you found it. In other words, what's written into the history and the lore of this fantasy world is already written in stone. You don't come in and scratch it out and write in whatever you want in its place. The fans have told you, we love this world and we welcome you to add to it if you're up to the job. They didn't say, hey, come on in and fuck my shit up. You know the origins of this fantasy world that I love so much? Yeah, just spray paint over it with your amateur level storytelling and your clumsy ideological take on the current thing going on in our modern world. And the second responsibility the creators have is to not disrespect the fans along the way. Don't call them names if they don't like your work, and don't stray so far from the source material that your product is unrecognizable as being part of the universe they're fans of. Well, showrunners Lauren Hisrich and Declan DeBarra shirked both of these responsibilities on their way toward producing one of the worst fantasy shows in human history. For example, Blood Origin rewrote the entire circumstances behind the creation of the first Witcher, an event that was the result of human experimentation in search for an answer to the monsters that had been terrorizing their world for nearly 1,000 years. And while details on the event were sparse, adhering to those conditions was the bare minimum standard they had to meet. But somehow, in their minds, this translated to a group of elves brewing some potions and watching one of their fellow elves spasm until he became a Witcher. Oh, and it worked the first time they ever tried it, like there was a recipe for this unknown magic, and it was done to combat literally one monster in their world. And there's plenty of other deviations from the lore. Chaos magic is born from a talking blue orb on a barren planet now. Witchers, famously sterile in the books, games, and show, can somehow have children now. Rather than a group of wicked elves raiding the universe in search of slaves, the Wild Hunt now originated as a group of 5 soldiers stuck on a barren planet with no way off of it. And instead of being appointed general by the Elven King, Aradin is the leader of the Wild Hunt because he found a helmet in the sand. Ithlin is no longer a powerful healer, astrologist, and oracle making world-altering prophecies. She's a waitress at medieval Hooters giving out prophecies for tips. Avalach is a whimpering, stammering loser who's ordered around like a small dog, and Ciri's ancestry was completely rewritten. And to top it all off, there was supposed to be 967 years between the conjunction of the spheres and the creation of the first Witcher. This is important because the creation of the Witcher was done in response to the monsters wreaking havoc on the continent. So not only did these two events happen out of order, but they happened within 12 hours of each other. And even if you put all of the mishandling of the lore aside and just took the show at face value, it still sucked. The whole thing looked so cheap and generic that if we removed about 3 scenes in total, you'd have no evidence that it took place in the Witcher universe. In short, the creators did nothing to honor the established world and shamelessly donned the Witcher skin suit to try and trick people into checking out their own crappy story that ranks somewhere below Witcher fanfictions. It's the kind of disrespectful handling of the source material that sent Henry Cavill running for the hills after he saw it happening from the inside. And it's really gotta be bad behind the scenes, considering the guy was getting paid millions playing what he considered the role of a lifetime. Now, the goal of this trick was simple, as they sought to abuse the loyalty of the existing fanbase for cheap views and push their own story and messaging. So did this trick work? Did people tune in impressive numbers, and did this new story strike a chord with fans and other viewers? Well, it definitely struck a chord, but not the one the creators were hoping for. Blood Origin set a record for an impressively low audience score of 9%, up from the one-time 8% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And if you read the actual reviews audience members left, the scores were not based on backlash to the woke, intersectional, box-ticking checklist approach to casting the show took, as politically minded journalists love to claim. No, viewers were upset with the bafflingly poor production value and the rewriting of the lore for God knows what reason, in addition to the crappy storytelling. As for the viewership, they still got millions of people to tune in, but the numbers have fallen well short of what they were hoping for. And while the show was #1 on Netflix for about a day, that really says more about the state of Netflix shows than it does about Blood Origin. Compared to the first and second season of The Witcher, Blood Origin's viewership numbers were abysmal, and they dropped off immediately after the release. Probably due in part to the plethora of YouTube reviews just tearing the show apart top to bottom. For once, creators hijacking a franchise to push the source material to the side and force their own story on viewers didn't work. A welcome relief after this trick did work for the Rings of Power and the Book of Boba Fett. So as evidenced by the historically low audience ratings and lackluster viewership numbers, we can say emphatically that this trick did not work for Blood Origin. Now, Henry Cavill's very public exit from the Witcherverse definitely played a role in keeping some fans away from The Witcher for good. But while Cavill was really the lone bright spot in The Witcher show, hardcore fans will never fully abandon the franchise, and they certainly would have wanted or felt the need to tune in order to witness some important historical events in this fantasy world that we were promised to see. So Cavill's exit alone does not explain the numbers we've seen. And speaking of those important events in the Witcher universe, that moves us along to our second trick that The Witcher Blood Origin tried to pull on viewers, by promising to show a number of events that truly define the Witcher universe. Set 1200 years before the events of the Witcher TV show, Blood Origin promised to show, actually, I'll just let one of the characters tell you the entire plot in 8 seconds.
7 estranged warriors who come together to fight an unstoppable empire, bring humans and monsters to the world via the conjunction of the spheres, and create the very first version of a Witcher.
In case you're not familiar with the Witcher universe, these are pivotal moments in the lore. Blood Origin was going to show us the creation of the first Witcher, how the worlds of men, monsters, and elves collided during the conjunction of the spheres, the birth of the Witcher bloodline, and the origin of Eredin, leader of the Wild Hunt. This would be the equivalent of telling Star Wars fans that a new series coming out is going to show us the first ever Jedi, how the Force originated, why the Skywalker bloodline is so strong, and how Emperor Palpatine turned evil. When you present a show like this, of course fans are going to tune in. They have to if they want to keep up with the fantasy universe they love so much. And no one knows this more than the creators of Blood Origin. They know people are going to watch their shit, at least to begin with, before the YouTube reviews start going. As we discussed earlier, the creation of the first Witcher was wildly different than how it happened in the source material. So right out of the gates, the most important event that fans would have been most interested in seeing was a steaming, spasming, confusing pile of crap. Then you had the conjunction of the spheres, which this show almost treated as an afterthought, as it was an unintended consequence of 2 underwhelming characters doing some magical combat. And rather than showing us a cataclysmic, universe-altering, world-shattering event, the sky casually opened up and some people just popped up on a new world, wondering where they were. The Witcher bloodline deal is fucked because it shouldn't be possible based on the sterility of Witchers, and it may just change Ciri's entire ancestry, which is kind of a big deal. And lastly, Eredin. Rather than being given some hard-earned, tragic, or brutal backstory that propelled him to leading the Wild Hunt, he was handed one of the lamest origin stories you could have possibly imagined. So while the creators of Blood Origin did show these important events as they promised they would, anyone familiar with the source material can tell you that their handling of these events was half-assed and disrespectful. It's like they forgot they needed to show most of these things and then just shoehorned them into the last 10 minutes. Now, the goal of this trick was yet again to draw existing fans of the franchise to their prequel show, since it was billed as, quote, required reading for the Witcher universe. They promised to chronicle these universe-defining events in live action for the first time ever, and in the end, they left us holding our noses, struggling to get through just 4 episodes. So did this trick work? Did existing Witcher fans tune into this required reading as the creators expected? Well, based on the viewership numbers we discussed earlier, we're happy to say that yet again, this trick did not work. And that does it for the tricks. Like we said before, there wasn't a wide range of tricks Netflix and the creators tried to pull for Blood Origin, as they went all in with abusing the established franchise and baiting fans with depictions of universe-defining events. Now, you could argue that the creators set out to make such an incomprehensibly bad show that it would get us all talking about it and stir up some buzz for the series. And that would certainly qualify as another trick they pulled if that were the case. But there's no evidence that the creators or writers even have enough collective brainpower and focus to set the clocks on their microwaves, much less pull something like that off. So to recap the findings of our investigation, Blood Origin's creators started off by donning the Witcher skin suit in order to score cheap viewers, abusing the loyalty of fans of the brand. And we determined that fans weren't buying that trick this time around, as the audience ratings hit record lows and the viewership lagged well behind that of The Witcher's second season. And then the creators tried another trick in an attempt to ensure Witcher fans would tune in by promising to show the first live-action depiction of critically important events in the Witcher universe. We determined that many did not fall for this trick, and the relatively few viewers that did give Blood Origin a chance were left with an awful taste in their mouth when the creators were given free rein to tell these important events in their own way. So we're happy to say that you can add these 2 attempted tricks to the long list of things Lauren Hissrich and Declan DeBarra have failed at in life. Well, now you know the 2 main tricks that The Witcher Blood Origin and its creators tried to pull on us in an effort to draw viewers to their historically, record-settingly horrible TV show. But it's important to remember that the talentless showrunners Lauren Hissrich and Declan DeBarra and their staff of unnamed Adderall-snorting writers don't deserve all of the blame here. Yes, they made the decisions that led to this abomination, but it all happened with the blessing of the author Sapkowski. As brilliant as the author was in creating The Witcher in the first place, let this be a lesson that, at times, even the original creator of a fantasy world doesn't know what's best for it. A big thank you for joining us for this latest entry into the How They Tried to Trick Us video series. Let us know in the comments below. Any other types of tricks you think the creators or Netflix tried to pull with Blood Origin? Any other recent shows or movies that you think deserve an entry into this video series? Let us know. Please remember to like the video if you liked it, as it helps our videos reach more struggling fans out there. Also, if you haven't already, click the subscribe button below to stay tuned to the channel for future entries into this video series, as well as comedy breakdowns and reviews of current shows and movies. Thank you again, and we'll catch you on the next one.